This episode is brought to you by Walmart. Attention fashion lovers. The Walmart Style Tour is traveling across America with a mobile pop-up showcasing the latest women's fashion trends to discover, try, and love this fall. Meet one-on-one with professional stylists for personalized tips and get a personal color analysis. Plus, enjoy free giveaways like engraved lipstick and denim totes while supplies last. Visit walmartstyletour.com to find a tour stop near you and find all the things you love today.
Close your eyes and picture something cheesy and delicious. Something satisfying. Ready in 3.5 minutes. Like a Kraft Mac and Cheese Cup. Available now at a store near you.
The percentage that you score, you go inside the 20, inside the 10, inside the 5, when you have those starting positions, you got to go 90 yards. Well, I don't know the exact number. I mean, people that study all those analytics can tell you, like, hey, you have a 13% chance of scoring a touchdown if you start inside. Versus when you start at midfield, your playbook opens up a lot more. Those two return teams are very important for me.
On today's episode of the Coaching Coordinator Podcast season, we're joined by John Weaver. He's an assistant coach at Madison Ridgeland Academy. He's been on the podcast before talking about branding your unit, team culture, multiple things. Today he's going to join us to talk special teams, and we're going to get into some of the things he does and how he looks at making adjustments in season, especially as we get later into the season. And we'll talk about his kickoff return, which has been highly productive here in 2024.
This episode is brought to you by Walmart. Attention fashion lovers. The Walmart Style Tour is traveling across America with a mobile pop-up showcasing the latest women's fashion trends to discover, try, and love this fall. Meet one-on-one with professional stylists for personalized tips and get a personal color analysis. Plus, enjoy free giveaways like engraved lipstick and denim totes while supplies last. Visit walmartstyletour.com to find a tour stop near you and find all the things you love today.
As we get into the later part of the season in a lot of parts of the country, we start to think about how things might adjust, how we can continue improving. And we're going to talk today with John Weaver from MRA, Madison Ridgeland Academy in Mississippi. They're a 3-time state champion. John's been on the podcast multiple times. So, Coach, great to have you back here again.
Man, great to always be on Coaching Coordinator. One of my favorite podcasts, to listen to. But when you get a chance to be on it, it's even a little bit more special.
Yeah, I love talking with you here. We've had some great ideas through the years and love to dig into this today. We're going to talk about your kick return today towards the end of this call, but want to think about this time of the year and special teams, because in the special teams game, I mean, compared to like offense and defense, maybe there's not as many wrinkles. We're still trying to get as good as we can at things we do. But there are those opportunities to look to enhance things, maybe look for opportunities in a game plan. So we'd love to hear just your overall approach when you think about special teams and getting into the weeks 8, 9, 10, heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, and this is great. Being a former specialist myself as a punter in college, you start looking at how do you gain the advantage in special teams? Because a lot of times I think high school coaches neglect special teams. They think offense, defense. So then there's that missing piece when you ODK stuff called K, which stands for the special teams and huddle. But when you start looking at that key, everybody has film on you, especially we're playing our 7th game actually tonight. And everybody has film on you. We have an agreement within our conference to everybody gets every film. So the conference is seeing what you do. So the wrinkles you put on special teams, so for example, like a kickoff team, the wrinkles that you have, like do you fake the onside, then line up, and then how do you manipulate your guys that are going down as gunners, as contain guys, as those type of deals? How do you manipulate those so the return team doesn't get a bead on, hey, your guys are going, we fill this lane, this guy's the contain guy, this guy's the gunner that goes to the ball. I think manipulating that. I think about your punt team a lot. As a punter, there are some really good D coordinators that like to scheme up where your weakest link is on the punt team and kind of go after that, because you and I and the listeners know that the biggest momentum swing in a football game is a punt, blocking a punt. So do you start rugby styling? Do you get away from your shield punt because you start seeing those getting blocked a lot more? But I think the overall special teams for me, I think comes in the punt return game before you start talking about kickoff return. I think punt return in the sense that you put two back, because now a lot of times we want to kick away from your best guys back there, where you put two of them back there. Yes, we know it negates the block potential, but also I think a big return in high school football. So that's my thing, is how can you gain an advantage in the kicking game? Mainly for, it's the third part that I think gets neglected when you start thinking of O&D for high school. I just mentioned this, but I think it's 50-50. Well, there's a kicking piece that has to come in there. So if you break it down in the third, it's 33 in the third that fits in that piece. And John Torrey and I used to talk about all the time, if you win two of those three, you're typically going to win a football game. And a lot of times you're not going to win on O&D every night. So if you can have the joker being the special teams, that you put a lot of emphasis on that, then you can gain an advantage really quick, I think, in high school football.
Yeah, no doubt. I know years ago it was Stan Parris's brother. Stan passed away this past year, but Stan spent time at Michigan with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, was a head coach at Kansas State, Ball State, number of places, just a wealth of football knowledge. And his brother was our special teams coach and just brought a lot of little things to it that we thought we were doing it well, but he brought all this attention to detail to it. And some of the things you mentioned here, I think, are important. For example, you mentioned manipulating some things on kickoff, right? Like, I know we would always look, and when I was at Baldwin Wallace, I was in charge of the kick return unit. So I wanted to know who's the guy who's getting down and making all the tackles, because at the time we were allowed to double, but who are we going to double and kick out? And we could manipulate those a little bit by understanding where he was. Like, here's the guy over here. All right, we need to get a left return this week as opposed to a right return. We got to double this guy here. And for the most part, we found that those pieces didn't change. Those guys were staying in the same spot. So when you have a guy like that and you can move him around a little bit and take away those keys and kind of screw up their plan, because there's not going to be a lot of time. We have time to adjust offense and defenses. Those guys get to the bench. We never get our special units on the bench, right? So you can do some little things within the game that are going to affect it. I love the idea too. You said two returners. Well, the one thing we would do really well was we were a directional team, meaning we're not going to kick to where your guy is. We're going to kick it as far away from him as we can, and we want that ball to roll. And even with two returners back, even if you don't get that big return, you're saving yardage because the ball's not rolling around, right? So yeah, are you giving it up on maybe getting a punt block? You may, but at the same time, you're gaining that yardage, and it's all about special teams. A big factor in that is starting field position.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think starting field position for us, and when we start talking about this kickoff return here in a minute, is I view that whether it's a punt return, whether it's a kick return, that's our first offensive possession based on where we are. I mean, you know as well as I do, the analytics and the percentage that you score when you go inside the 20, inside the 10, inside the 5, when you have those starting positions. So if you have a punter that puts you inside the 10, you got to go 90 yards. Well, I don't know the exact number. I mean, people that study all those analytics can tell you, like, hey, you have a 13% chance of scoring a touchdown if you start inside, versus where you start at midfield, where you say that you start at the 50, or the plus side of your chances, and plus your playbook opens up a lot more. So I view those two return teams, unless you're playing Pulaski Academy, who onside kicks it and gives it to you at the 50-yard line every time, because they onside kick every time still. It gives you a way to open up your playbook and stuff. So those two special teams are very important to me if I'm going into a game like, hey, how's our punt return going to be set up? How's our kick return going to be set up? And what's a plan that we have, for our kickoff team? And then the one that I think a lot of coaches forget about is the onside team. Like, who's going to catch the onside kick? I know a lot of times, and look, I've done this before, early on coaching, got called my pants down when I was like, it's a 5-point game and I don't have an onside team. I don't have a hands team to go and get the ball. So we're scrambling there. So I think just see a little attention to detail to where you put maybe 8 minutes on each special team that week. We do a really good job of Monday we do 2 of them, Tuesday we do 2 of them, Wednesday we go through all of them, Thursday we run through all of them again. It's just adding some intentionality to it. And Coach Davis does an amazing job of putting that third phase as a a concern, like, hey, where are they going to kick this year? And plus, he puts a lot on the coaches to trust them that, hey, that's your special team. I want you to go and run with that special team and make it your own.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things you can do. You mentioned like catching an onside kick. I think about, well, how much do we actually practice that, right? Like, I know our kickers, and I think even at the places I was as a high school head coach, we had guys that were just kickers, and they would do work all practice long. Well, we started getting smart with, hey, when you're going to work on these little squib kicks or these onside kicks, I want you to grab this guy who's on it right here and get him some work, and then grab this guy. Like, you can steal those reps throughout your practice, because you're just going to you take that guy's availability for 5 minutes away from offense or defense to make sure that he's able to do something that's going to win a game because he recovered the ball. Just little things like that, thinking about what can we do to get more out of this with the time we have and not restructuring everything. So I think there's all kinds of those opportunities. From a practice perspective, how does it look for you guys as you start getting into the later season in terms of the way you rep things, the amount of running that you get on a team's play, et cetera?
Yeah, so we're hot and heavy early on, but as the season gets going, and this is from OD and special teams, we start scaling it back where it's like a 2-hour practice. We now go an hour and 45, and we're doing a little bit more team stuff. We're doing some fundamentals early on, but then right now you're trying to make sure that your timing's staying precise. So we'll do like some TMOs. We call those hammer downs. Remember when I was on last time, where we're going tempo. And then we go compete. We'll do a blitz pickup. We'll do good on good. And then the defense will go through their defense walkthrough. And then we'll sprinkle in some inside run. Make sure our O-line has all the inside run stuff they need with, hey, here are the tweaks we're making on a 4 versus 4-man, a 3-man. Where are we going to run to the 4-eye? Are we going to run to the 5? There's just little things that you start compartmentalizing there. So practice starts being a little bit more compartmentalized. The first, I'll say, 16 periods, and then we'll break up and do 7-on-7, and then we compete at the end. And the special teams are spliced in there at the beginning and sometimes at the end to where we get the best of both worlds. So hey, you have to concentrate being tired. You got to concentrate on these special teams. And then right off the bat, you got to be ready to go, like we do extra point and punt typically right at the beginning, and field goal, because those are important. I mean, the field goal team should be called the A team. This should be automatic in high school football to kick an extra point and make it. And then at the end, we'll do our punt block, our punt return, our kick return, our kickoff, just because so we want their minds to be focused on, hey, this is the end of practice, but also this is important. You're also going to be tired because a lot of the starters, you take the Alabama model, right, when Nick Saban was there, you're going to put starters on those kickoff teams and kickoff return teams because you want those to be just successful as your offense and your defense. So we want those guys to trained up that, hey, this matters here. And sometimes we'll throw a wild card in there and throw it right in the middle of practice, which has happened a handful of times, but it's kind of shocking the system. But practice for us, we'll go Monday. It's kind of a light day. Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll go at it hard. And then Thursday, we'll go in the mornings. And that'll be an hour 15, 6:30 to 7:45. And then we're off the field, give them that afternoon off, and then we'll play the night. So we give them that kind of 24-hour rest period where they can enjoy the afternoon on Thursday and stuff like that. But as the season goes, Keith, it tapers off. But yet the intentionality of discipline, of fundamentals, and just getting better at your position, whether it be a holder, whether it be the starting quarterback, all those are important.
Oh, such a clutch off-season pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
Shop Blinds.com's primetime kickoff event. Save up to 50% off select styles, plus doorbusters. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only had to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
John, I know you guys have a very effective kick return, and you've talked to me about your kick return for years now, which is you equate it to a gap scheme type of play. Would love to hear about this. I mean, I'm excited that the regular kickoff is still in high school football and in college football. I did think I was going to like the adjustments for the dynamic kickoff in the NFL because I thought it was going to mean more kick returns, but I've been surprised at how many of those still they decide to kick them into the end zone and get a touchback. And to me, it's a little bit strange, and I would love to understand their analytics and thinking on we're good with giving up 5 more yards here, but it's still in high school. Love that part. So what are you guys are doing? I know you said, hey, they're just not kicking to us anymore, but I guess prior to not kicking to you, what do you run that's been so effective?
Yeah, so this is pretty simple. There's something out on CoachTube that kind of outlines this, but I was tired of, we would go in and all the coaches were like, man, we cannot get a kickoff return. We cannot get a kickoff return. So I took it as a personal challenge. And in 2018, we kind of all sat in a room and started devising like, hey, what if we did this and started watching some other colleges and pieced like what Duke, Army, Navy. And then I started looking like, hey, what if we did this? But what it equates to is the old adage, and there's going to be some coaches that listen to this, and they're going, well, you got to block all 11. No, you don't. No, you don't. So let's say we have a 4 and a 6. So the ball is on the near hash, and there's 4 into the boundary, and there's 6 across the field, and you have the kicker. Well, there's always that guy, and you alluded to this, Keith, that there's that one dude on kickoff that's the bad mamma jamma who's going to go down, and he's going to make the tackle. I mean, he lives for opening kickoff to go and make the highlight of the tackle. There's always that guy. And he's typically, from film that I've watched on opponents that we play, he's number 3 or number 4 into the boundary. So he's really close to the kicker, or he's the one right out, because number 1's typically a contain guy, number 2 is typically a lane guy, and then 3 or 4 the ball guy. So we've designated that of we're going to take a 5-3 or 5-2-1-1-2 is kind of what it looks like. And it's on CoachTube. You can search it there and look for it. But what we do is we will double, and I use double in a light sense to where it's not the old wedge blocking. But if he gets loose, we have another guy count it for him. So if you can't block him with one, another guy comes and helps out a little bit. But we'll take that, and a guy will block 4, a guy will block 3, and we have an extra guy blocking either 3 or 4, and we'll designate that with a signal. Well, then you have the guy that is screaming down as a contain guy sometimes. Well, the off returner has him if he's in the play. And then we have a guy that is designated to go kick number 2. So you're starting to see a little gap scheme there where you block down, you're doubling the backside, right, to a linebacker if you're talking gap scheme. And we have a kick where we go and kick the number 2 guy. So one of the hardest things that I thought was the guy that's in the middle, say over the ball on the front line, is to block the guy running right at him. So all we did is move him a guy over. So if you're to the field and it's, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, where 6 is the outside, 1 is closer to the kicker. Now you're looking at, he's got number 2 there. If you made it really even, which what I do for our guys, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we go back across. But who they have. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you kind of like that. So that guy's got another guy over than he normally does. And then we have a guy that's down the field that's set up on the 30 that is responsible for the guy that's next to the kicker. And look, I know this is really hard to explain, and people are going to be like, what the crap? If you want information on this, send me an email, call me on my cell phone. I'll give that out at the end. But we turn it into a gap scheme. And what it essentially breaks down to, Inky, is we take 10 guys and block 8. We leave number 1 and number 2 that's to the field, and we don't block them. Like, if you want to make a tackle on a right return, good luck. Good luck. You're probably going to catch us down the field on the plus 40 or maybe at midfield. But there's a lot of times that they don't even touch us. And then they're like, what about the kicker? Good luck with the kicker. You know, we have a guy that scrapes across, that loops in. So it's like communicating a power scheme where he pulls up, like you block down, you kick out, and you wrap, right? So the wrap comes from the backsides from the field. And Keith, when I say this, we returned 2 in the first 3 games, and now we don't get a ball kicked to us. If we go back and look, our average starting position when they do kick it to us is at the 47-yard line. So what I'm telling you is, and we've been doing the same thing since 2018. And this course is out there, so people know we just got to have guys kick it to us. So we play the 7A state champs, Oak Grove. They don't even kick to us. So the last kickoff return, I'm looking at our huddle right now, the last kickoff return that we got was in game 3. It was play 105 when we had our backups in, and all they did was try to pooch it. And our up back caught it, and he said, I'm going to the house. So, I mean, he got to the plus 36, what I'm looking at. What I'm saying is it's a return that has helped us, and we don't change it. And a lot of coaches ask me, Keith, like, hey, what if you want to go to the other side? All we do is flip those guys. So those guys have to remember one responsibility. And if other teams want to look like, hey, they're flipping and doing this, which, look, coaches might look at that. Hey, he flips 11 and 13 to the other side when they go left. Well, good for you. We're still going to go return left. There was one caveat. We played Corinth about 3 years ago, and they tried to load up the 6 sides of the boundary and kick it to the boundary so we'd have numbers. All we did there is game plan it and took it in reverse to the field, and we returned 2 that night. So there's always a check to, hey, how do I do this? How do I get a great return based on what the kickoff team gives to us? Now, if they squib it out of bounds, good luck. You know, that's kudos to you. You're going to get the ball at the 35-yard line, or you can tell them to re-kick it. Chances are they're probably going to kick it out of bounds again. But there's been some times they squib it, and I tell our guys if they squib it to go get what you can. The other times, the one rule I have for the guys when it passes the 5 up front, and then the 3, and then the 1 and the 2, I said, look, I don't want you to go back and return a ball. Let the guys always come up and return a ball. So if you're the deep returner and they kick it to where the guy is supposed to kick number 2 and the ball's coming at you, don't retreat. Go kick number 2. I always want my returners to run up and get the ball. So there are some guidelines inside that. I mean, we turn gap scheme into kickoff return, and it's been successful for us.
Yeah, I think adjusting those things when they won't kick to you and having those rules. I found out, I told you about this the other day when you and I were talking. The first year I was in charge of it, we were pretty good. We were definitely the best in our conference, and we were top 25 in kick return. The next year I had 2 freshman returners, were just so dynamic. One ended up, by the time he graduated from BW, was a multiple-time All-American in track and was the fastest man in D3, meaning he won the 100 his senior year in track. And so those guys, in one game, there was one game, they both took one back and figured, we won't kick to this guy, we'll kick to the other guy. Yeah, well, good luck. So there were, I think, 3 that went back that year, and then just incredible. I think we finished number 2 that year in the country in all divisions. We had a couple call back in our last game, not full returns, but long gains that hurt us. But then the following year, the first kick to us was at halftime, or coming out of half, I should say. We didn't get the ball to start. We got it coming out of half. We held them scoreless, and that one went back, and then we didn't see one again. And so everything was squibbed or was kicked to the fullbacks. So that evolved to, well, those guys are going to be return types too. And then we just took our 2 fastest guys who at times we try to sneak them up there, but basically we told them, like, look, they're not going to kick deep. You guys will see that right away. You get up in front and become the fullbacks. And we were able to take one back with one of those guys in that. But ultimately, it was great starting field position, because as soon as they decide, like, we can't kick deep, you've won on kick return. So whether you're using John's scheme here with a gap scheme, and again, he'll share that. I'll make sure we get his information here, or something that's effective like that, it definitely can be a game changer in winning the field position battle.
Yeah, and that's goes back to what I said earlier, Keith. I view kickoff return as our first offensive possession. That's our first offensive play. How are we going to be set up? Because then that opens up the play column for Coach Davis. And man, it's hard to call when you're inside the 15. It's a lot easier to open up that playbook when you're 40 to 40.
I appreciate you taking the time and sharing some of these ideas with us here on practice, on game planning, and just thoughts on special teams in general, as well as your kick return. We did say we get your information out there, so I'll make sure we do that right now. How can guys get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can send me an email at J, and that's the letter J, Weaver at mrapats.org. That's MRAPATS.org. That'll come straight to me. And I don't mind if you hit me up on Twitter, and that's real easy too. It's at Coach Weaver, MRA. You send me a DM, I'll definitely get you some information to it. And then look, if you're one of those people who's like, I don't want a DM, I don't want to do this, I want a text or call, you can do that as well at 601-218-3943. I'd love to talk anything football, kickoff return, special teams, whatever you want to do. Those are 3 methods you can get me. Email, you can get DM on Twitter, and then that's my cell phone.
Coach, I appreciate you taking the time here during the season. Best of luck to you and the Patriots the rest of the way.
Thank you, Keith. And thanks for all you do for coaches around the country with Coach and Coordinator Podcast.
Here's my winning edge takeaway from our conversation with John Weaver. I think the biggest thing I took away from this one is that you have to look at the little things you can do, especially as you get later in the season, to keep your guys developing. We mentioned some things and looking at it at practice. We mentioned how you can evolve some of your units, find little advantages here or there. The whole idea as a coach, as you keep going through the season, is to make sure you're putting your guys in position to succeed. And whether that's finding a little bit of time in practice to do the things that maybe they don't get as many reps on special teams, finding a way to adjust little things within your scheme without wholesale changes is going to make a big difference. Be sure to check out our partners Vertical Raise for your fundraising needs, modern football technology for analytics and in-game decision-making, and signature championship rings when you win the championship this year. Links and information to all of our partners can be found in the description and on coachandcoordinator.com in our 10% toolkit. Follow us on X at Coach K. Grabowski.